Episode here at REI Freedom Podcast. We're going to try to bring tons of great value again this week, like we do every week. And today we have a guest who is really good at acquiring many deals off market. And I think we're going to get a lot of value from him. I'm super excited to share his story with you guys today and some knowledge because this guy is legit. He is a corn husker. He's out of Lincoln, Nebraska. His name is Grant Francke. Grant, thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Jeremy.
So Grant, you know, I don't know. The only thing I know about Nebraska is really corn. I didn't really even think real estate existed out in that part of the country. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are, your journey in Nebraska, and where you are today?
Yeah, you bet. Grant Francke, I've got a wife, Laura, and two kids, Madeline and Brendan. Started buying back in 2016. I was a conductor for the railroad for BNSF Railways.
Wow.
It's a pretty tough life. So I was looking for something to get out of that. Went through the rabbit hole, found Rich Dad Poor Dad, started reading that, learning everything I could. We started buying in 16. And then 2019, I left my job and been doing it full time since then. Our main focus is small multifamilies, duplex up to 10 units. Kind of starting to scale a little bit larger than that now, but that's kind of our bread and butter.
Wow. Okay. So you started your journey in 2016, and then finally left the job in 2019. You've been all in since. I mean, we're going into 2025. I mean, that's 6 years of full time. I'm sure you're never going back to the railroad at this point.
No, no, not happening.
So, what did you start in 2016? Like, how did that initial, um, you know, I guess the initial interaction or transaction into real estate look like for you? Did you hire a coach? Did you just start flipping, wholesaling? Did you just buy a rental? How did that look?
Yeah, it was just a rental. We just did all the free education we could. That's back when Bigger Pockets was in its heyday and all that free education stuff. So we didn't have a coach or anything, but that was the only deal I've actually bought and that's been like on the market. So we got an agent, went out and found an up down duplex in Lincoln and took that down as our first one.
Okay, and what does a up down duplex in Lincoln go for like on the market back then? Do you remember how much you paid for
Man,
it?
I want to say it was like 150 or 160. So
Okay,
it
so
wasn't, yeah,
wasn't super cheap, and
wasn't
was
super
it?
cheap, but like looking back now, that was pretty crazy cheap. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
right.
about what we paid at that time.
And did you have to bring like 20% to the table to get it done and all that stuff?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was a traditional loan, just 20% down. And like I said, I was working at the railroad, so I had a decent income, and my wife was still on her W-2 as well. So we had enough money saved up that we could do those first couple transactions, just boring 20% down stuff.
So, as you were doing that, you must have realized you could only do so many of those financially. So you must have had to make a transition to start acquiring deals off market at some point, right?
Yep. So about our third deal is where we started going off market. We had another deal that we found on Craigslist. It was another guy who was selling a duplex. He was actually a retired railroader, so I was able to create a really good relationship with him. It was a great transaction. We closed on time. We did what we said we were going to do. And then at the closing table, I was like, "Hey, I noticed we've got these five other single family houses that are clearly rentals. So if at any point in time you're ready to sell those, just let me know." So we started, kept talking, and then he's like, "Yeah, let's try to figure something out." So I explained to him the situation of like, "Hey, we've just taken down these two duplexes. Our capital's kind of tapped. So is there a way we can work out some sort of seller financing deal with you?" So we were able to take those five houses down, seller financing from him, all because of the relationship we built, during that first transaction.
It's amazing. All right. So, I mean, wow, what an initial journey. So you do two deals the traditional way, which is scary in itself, right? You're working
Yeah.
full time. You're gonna put 20% down. That's a big chunk of change for somebody who's working full time, has got young kids and everything else. If whether you had kids at the time or not, um, it's a scary investment. Then you learned enough about from Bigger Pockets about seller financing, apparently.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty ballsy move, but he was able to do that because you're building rapport. So now you're sitting at what, like seven properties and moving, right?
Yeah, so then
Got some great momentum.
that snowball kept going pretty quick, and those deals were good deals too. Like that, they cash flowed great. There's a lot of room on them. We're able to raise rents, improve the units, and that was the perfect jumping off point for us.
It was a great time to get into the real estate market for sure.
Super good.
But you must have had an epiphany at some point, said, hey, I could do this full time and I don't have to work at the railroad anymore. Again, another scary thing that a lot of people want to do but are afraid to pull the trigger. When did this epiphany happen for you? And then, how did you find the courage to make that leap of faith?
Yeah, it was around that seller financing deal. My wife's an accountant, so she's really good at Excel, so it helps out with things. So we made some spreadsheets of like, hey, this is where our cash flow is. This is where we need to get to. We did some calculations, taking in, the tax benefits of real estate, what that would do with her income, what cash flow we need to get to that point. We just made that target. We're like, hey, let's get to this amount and see how it goes. If we can live off that for a while, then we'll be good. And in 2019, I took the dive and went in and resigned. It was the most terrifying thing I've ever done, but it was also the best thing I've ever done.
I know. I that's the same thing that happened to me. I quit my job at the end of 2019, right before
Yeah.
2020. Then obviously we know what happened early in 2020. I'm like,
Yep.
oh my God, what did I do?
Exactly.
And but it all worked out in the best. But now, as we stand here today, recording this in November 2024, you said you have 120 units.
Yeah. Yep.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it was
So
we scaled up pretty good. Like COVID was great, money was cheap. There were still good deals out there, so we were able to take down a lot of deals 2020, 2021, before things went south, the last couple of years.
with the
But
interest rates and
with
stuff
the
like
interest
that.
rates, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, 120 units. I mean, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So we're about 9 years. I mean, so you're talking about what, 15 units a year on average. That's awesome.
Yeah, we've done a lot of those in like larger packages, just from networking with people, direct seller finance or direct to seller marketing. It's not we're just taking up two at a time. We're taking down seven duplexes in one package, or three sixplexes in one package. So we're able to bunch those together, and scale that way.
Now, are you doing this all in your local market of Lincoln, Nebraska, or have you ventured outside of that area?
Yeah, it's all Lincoln, and then there's some bedroom communities around Lincoln, smaller community college type of areas that we hit.
So, obviously having this experience now, you've been in the business a long time. You've been through COVID, you've been through interest rates, you've seen a lot of ups and downs. It's not everything we thought it was in 2016. In many ways, it's better, but a lot of times it's much more realistically scary and
Yeah.
stressful at times. But you know enough now that you're getting deals off market. How are you finding your properties off market?
Yeah, we do very targeted, direct to seller marketing. So, like, let's say there's another town near Lincoln, Seward. I really wanted to get into Seward, so I sent some of the owners there, a letter, a very personalized letter from me, just saying, "Hey, I'm an investor. I'm not an agent. I'm not a broker. I'm just looking to grow my portfolio." Very disarming letter, has a picture of me and my family on it,
I
just
love it.
just to introduce and make the connection. We had a really good connection with one seller. We took down three sixplexes from him in a package deal. Another great transaction. We showed up. We did what we said we were going to do. We didn't retrade. It was a great transaction. He then referred two more sellers to me within the next couple of years. Like, hey, this guy's buying. Just people looking to get out or looking to get into a different business venture. So we're up over 40 units in Seward now just from that one letter.
That's amazing. Amazing. So you're not wholesaling, you're not flipping, you're just basically buying to take everything down. Um, are you spending like a marketing budget each and every month, or are you just kind of sending handwritten letters every now and then as needed?
Yeah, we do. I try to do it once a quarter. And
Okay.
I'm not sending out 1,000 letters. I'm sending out 20, 25 letters to different people that have larger portfolios in the areas we want to buy. I just want to remain top of mind to them. When I hit them with the letter, they may not be wanting to sell that time, but maybe the next time, or maybe they're going to keep it. They're going to have a bad day. I'm like, all right, I'm done. Let's call this Grant guy and see if he wants to take our properties.
And how do you know how they own 20 to 25 properties and then the larger portfolio owners in the area? How are you finding that information out?
Yeah, so I go through each different zip code of where I want to buy, and then I'll pull a list like from PropStream or something, and then I will either me or my VA will go through and cross analyze on the county assessor site to see if there's anything else under their LLC or their name. We'll do some skip tracing and try to find out who owns all what packages, so we can try to target those people that have larger portfolios that may want to sell it all off or just sell a piece off. I find that to be better than finding one person that has one duplex. They would have to sell their entire portfolio if they want to sell. But somebody that has a larger portfolio, they might want to start retrading some stuff or into different assets.
Gotcha. Awesome. Awesome. So, I mean, 120 units. I'm sure you've had a mix of taking these down with all different types of scenarios, right? And I'm sure you've probably done some seller financing. And you probably, you've done them the traditional way. You probably have taken them down with cash and refinanced out.
Yep.
You must have a lot of debt on all these, right? And
Yeah.
it's
Oh yeah.
very, a lot of people think debt is bad, but in your situation, I mean, you're living a full-time income off of carrying debt on a lot of these rentals. What does that look like?
Yeah, we have a lot of debt, right? We've probably got $4 or $5 million in debt, but we've also got $9-10 million worth of assets. So that makes me sleep pretty good that we're buying right. We've got the equity built in. We buy for cash flow. We don't buy it if it doesn't cash flow day one. There's no hoping and praying that something's going to work out. We buy things that work from day one with room to up with room to improve on our business plan as well. So it's kind of terrifying when you think about the debt amount, but then when you think what's backing it and our business plan, it I can sleep better at night.
Of course, of course. Now, for a lot of people listening, they may not understand that you're not basically still paying your own money to take all these down, but I would assume you have to go find money to get some of these deals done. How does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, we keep it within like close family and friends. I'm not out doing syndications, raising millions of dollars from people. We've got family and friends that want to invest, so we'll take down, we'll bring on two or three people, maybe if the deal's big, and bring in two or three people. Otherwise, we've just got a close group of friends and family that have seen what we've done and wanted to get involved. So we just bring them in as silent partners.
Okay. So they have an equity stake in some of these properties as well.
Yes, they do. Yep. And then we manage all of our properties ourselves, so we control the management and the asset from that point.
Now, that is a lot of work managing 120 units. Does that keep you up at night?
It used to. I used to have a full head of hair too, but um,
Me
so about
too.
a year and a half ago, we brought on a VA, and that's really helped us out a lot. She runs a lot of the property management side, so anything tenant facing, tenant communications, she does from leasing, listings, maintenance, all that stuff.
Have you had a lot of learning curves of, qualifying good tenants as opposed to bad tenants, and especially during the struggles of COVID and everything else, dealing with evictions and people not paying? I don't know if you're, a landlord friendly state as opposed to a tenant friendly state, but I mean, there's a lot of learning curves when it comes to finding the right tenants.
Yeah, that's can make or break it. We are a fairly landlord friendly state, which is great. But my rule of thumb is I'd rather let a place sit empty for 2 months than put the wrong person in there because
Yeah,
it's
me
going to be
too.
you're going to lose more than 2 months rent trying to get rid of them. So we're pretty strict with who we let in, and I started that from the beginning. Like I just really built it from the beginning to try to make it as a business that I can scale and step away from as well.
So, you know, 120 units, you know, in a short amount of time, which is amazing. I feel like though a lot of people think, wow, if I have 120 units, you know, I must be rich. I probably never have to work a day in my life. It's all passive. My wife and I are just living in Florida. We only say we're in Nebraska, but we're not. Because I know when I started coming into real estate, I've done 450 transactions. When I think of 450 transactions from the beginning, I thought, geez, I'd probably own an island in the Bahamas
Yeah,
by now, right?
billionaire, yeah, yeah.
But it's not quite the way it seems. Obviously, you're living your dream because you are working full time in real estate and don't have to work for anybody else. But realistically, is it less or more or different than you expected from when you originally started for where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, you always have those dreams, right, of financial freedom and what it's going to do for you. And like, I do have financial freedom. I was able to leave my job, but I have more time freedom than anything else. Like, I control my time. I control my schedule, which is worth probably more than the financial freedom part at this point. And that's not something I realized till the last couple of years when I was, you're chasing financial freedom and all that stuff. But it's really time freedom is what people are really at. So that's worth a lot of money to me, and that's not even the money we make. It's just having that time freedom to do what I want with my family and my community, and just do whatever I want each day.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, right? As they always say, your time is limited. You can always go out and make more money, but you can't make more time. And,
No,
the way our business is set up, we're more transactional based. We do keep some properties, not nearly as much as you do, which I wish I did. But with the fix and flips and the wholesales and wholetails and all that stuff, but we have a team that we probably pay out more money than probably we need to. So my wife and I actually make less money doing it, but we have a much more time freedom as a result of it. You can work and get as much money as you can. But if you don't have any time to spend or enjoy that money, what's even
That's
the
the
point?
point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, one of the questions we were talking about Mike Ketchum
Yeah.
offline, right? And it's been on my mind since he asked me last week. So he asked me in his podcast, he's like, so, hey, Jeremy, his partner, Matt Hitchcock, was like, hey, what do you see yourself in 5 years? And I just gave like kind of a cliche answer. Well, in 5 years, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing better, what I'm doing now, right? And then I was like, oh shit, I wish I could get a redo of that question, because if I think about 5 years ago, right, and I think your situation is similar, right? We're similar timelines when we came in. I came in, late 2016 and 2017. Think of how much you have accomplished in the last 5 years,
Yeah.
right? Isn't it mind blowing, and how much you can achieve in real estate investing in just 5 years?
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. And
When you
that's
were with your W-2, were you able to really achieve that much success in your day job in 5 years?
no, I mean, you're always limited by who your boss is, you know what I mean? Like, and what the rules are above you. And when you're self-employed, you create your own rules and create your own destiny.
Which is amazing, right?
Yeah.
And which I love being rewarded for my own efforts. So in the last 5 years, you've created all this success. Going into those last 5 years, you only had a couple years of traction and knowledge, right?
Hmm.
This next 5 years you're going into, right? You're now bringing in like 8 or 9 years of traction, knowledge, experience, and a skill set to build the next 5 years. Despite all the challenges this real estate market and economy can bring, you're a freaking rock star.
Yeah.
Where do you think the next 5 years will be for you?
That's a good question. So Michael asked me that the last 50 event we were at, and I gave two like just a bullshit answer, which those answers don't go well around him. You know what I mean? Like he's like,
Mhm.
"What are you talking about?" And it was a cliche thing. It's like, I'm just gonna keep scaling and keep growing. And it's tough for me to like dream too big because like you're trained to be as a human just to be kind of humble, right? And like, oh, I'll
Modest.
just kind of
Yeah,
keep growing a little bit. And I really don't have aspirations of like a number of units. Like I don't. That number to count doesn't really mean anything to me.
I agree.
If I can continue to create like the time freedom and the memories for my family, that's what my goal is going to be, and keep scaling our portfolio as we do that. But my measure of success is going to be like the memories I create with my family and the legacy I leave with my kids. Like those are going to be the things that I remember.
How old are your kids?
8 and 10.
As somebody talking to you that has 5 kids, me and my wife combined, we're a blended family.
Okay.
We have 3 kids already outside of the house in college. We have a high school senior who's getting ready, so 4 or 5 going to college, and a freshman in high school, right? So we're starting to become empty nesters, and it happened like that. I remember
Yeah.
being at COVID when we had 5 kids on Zoom, trying to get Wi-Fi, enough bandwidth so they were get their schoolwork done. And Shell and I couldn't even get a Home Depot order for one of our flips in for the day.
Yeah.
And here we are, a short few years later, and everything has changed. It goes by quick.
Hmm.
And the ability for us to be home, even if it's just getting the kids on the school bus, getting the kids off the school bus, being able to attend those school events without having to take time off from work. As your kids get older and they start to do sports or after school activities, being able to be there at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, and you don't have to explain to anybody. I mean, that is way more worth the headaches that come with this business, but more than the almighty dollar. And it goes by so fast. So to be able to do that, it's amazing, because so many people listening to this podcast are driving home from work,
Yep.
sitting in traffic right now in a job that they don't like, wishing they could even get home before 6 o'clock for dinner. But you're home all day, every day with your children, whether they're home or not, right? Isn't it
Y-
awesome?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And like like my kids don't even know any different, right? Because I've been doing it since as they've been growing up. But this last deal that we just closed, things got hairy at the end, just like how they have the last couple of years. Things everybody's freaking out about appraisals and
Yeah.
stuff not coming in. So I was down in my office at like 6 or 7 at night, which never happens. And my son even talked to my wife, and was like, Why is Dad working? What's happening? Is everything okay?" Because it's just so random for me to not be up there making supper and helping out with everybody. So it's
Yeah.
been it's a good change.
It's a great change. And our kids are
Yeah.
the same way. We've built everything from our kitchen table. We don't have any fancy office. Matter of fact, I'm recording this from one of my old kids' bedrooms down in the basement. They moved
Nice.
out. I turned it into my office. I'm like, oh, I finally get an office in my house, right?
Yeah.
Um, But there'll be like times like they'll be like, "Hey, I need you to come to school and blah blah blah." And we'll be like, "Hey, we're on an appointment." Like, what do you mean? You're not always just home, always available? I
Yeah.
thought that's what you did.
Yeah.
Like, I wish it was always that easy. But
Yeah.
that's the kind of expectation you set, and it's kind of nice that you've had that ability because my family didn't have that. I'm sure your parents didn't have that
No.
ability.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great to be able to be at everything they want us to be at and everything we can be at. And not feel bad that you have to ask somebody or they're going to say no or all that other crap that comes with being an employee.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I love your story. I'm going to ask you a couple questions, but first off, there's a couple things we need to do. We need to plug Grant here because he wrote a freaking book.
Yeah.
A book that you can buy on Amazon, which I didn't know about, which I'll be ordering today because I love reading books. Tell us about this book because this is awesome.
Yeah, it's called The Unlikely Investor. It's just kind of a s- it's a real estate book that has my story intertwined to it of like if you're starting out at W-2, here's some of the steps you need to take to get to full-time real estate investing. I wrote it just kind of as a goal. I set up goals every year, and my goal for 2024 was to write a book. So I wrote a book, and it launched in May. So it's been a fun ride.
That's amazing. Was there a lot of learning curves with writing a book and getting one published?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it didn't take too long to write it really, because really it was just writing about my job. And we had a few big snowstorms here in Nebraska. So I get stuck in the house for a week and just hammer out as much as I could. You know what I mean?
Love it.
So, but yeah, it's been fun. I don't know. I'm kind of getting the itch to do it again, but we'll see. It's been a good ride.
That's amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. All right. Well, so couple questions as we wrap up our podcast here, which has just been an amazing one. So Grant, been doing this for a while. You've had some great success. I'm sure you got a few bumps and bruises along the way. Somebody listening to this that says, "Man, I'd love to quit my W-2 job, um, and be at a point where in 7 to 8 years I own 120 units and I can be home with my family, but I have yet to make that first leap of faith." What do you say to somebody like that, knowing what you know now?
What I know now is like take action is the first one, right? That's the toughest part. Taking action and getting that first deal done is the biggest thing. That first deal done was terrifying for me and everyone else, right? It's just the most terrifying thing. Then after that, it's just a process. You follow that same process every single time, and it's the same thing. So getting that first deal done is huge, and then taking action, like I said, and perseverance, because like things are going to get tough and things are going to get tough, things are going to go wrong. So knowing why you're doing what you're doing, like the first part of my book is all about mindset and like knowing why you're doing what you're doing because pipes are going to break, tenants are going to be problems. It's the nicest way I can say it, but so knowing why you're going to do those things, it makes the
Yeah.
whole process a whole lot easier.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Okay, great. And you kind of answered this a little bit, but I'm going to ask it anyway because we ask every guest on it. We call this show REI Freedom. We call our coaching program REI Freedom. We name it that because, we're all about building a life of freedom through real estate investing. But that looks different for many people, right? It's some people want to build 120 units, some people want to build 1,000 units, right?
Yeah.
Some people only want to do 2 flips a year. Some people are all about chasing the dollar. Some people like myself are all about chasing time. You mentioned a little bit about time, but what does REI freedom mean to you? What is your ultimate goal of freedom through real estate investing?
Yeah, it's time freedom. It's the ability to do what I want when I want with my family, with my friends, in the community. That's what it's all about. Like when you're learning in the beginning, you're like, "Oh, I'd love to make all this money." Like that's great. It's just a means to an end of the time freedom part. That's all. That's what I'm chasing. The easy lifestyle, the less stress I have in my life, the better. So everything I've done in my company and like what I've done investing has been about the least amount of stress I can have in my life and still have a great portfolio.
Love that. I love that. Now, you mentioned learning. I'm sure you didn't just learn all this stuff just by only taking action. You must have had some people along the way that taught you how to get good. And now you're in a position where you can teach others how to learn how to acquire 120 properties. Tell us a little bit more about this coaching program you have.
Yeah, you bet. So, like back when I was learning everything I could, it was when Bigger Pockets was in its heyday. Brandon Turner and Josh Dorkin were on there every week, just teaching me everything they could. So I'm lucky enough now to be an advisor in Brandon Turner's first deal program. He asked me to come on earlier this year, and it's a great program for people just learning how to do their first deal. If you have no knowledge, no experience, we hold your hand for 12 months, and it's guaranteed. So you will get a deal at the end of it, or you get your money back. So it's 12 months of coaching with one-on-one coaching. calls with Brandon, calls with the rest of the advisors too. So I I never thought I'd be involved with the coaching program, but Brandon Turner does it. It's probably going to be a pretty high standard thing. So I felt really good coming on with him.
I don't think you go wrong, working with Brandon Turner in this industry. He's done really well from his
Yeah.
platform as a host on the Bigger Pockets podcast. I mean, his story is quite remarkable in itself, and so is yours. And I appreciate that. So, if people want to learn about your coaching program, what's the best way to them to go find out more information on that?
They can just shoot me a DM on Instagram. Grant.Francke is my Instagram. Or you can go to firstdeal.com and that's got all the information there too.
Awesome. We'll put all that stuff in the show notes and everything else. Well, man, great episode. I really appreciate you being on today, Grant. I hope to have you on again when you're at like 200 units and you're like, yeah, now I have a VA that runs everything and I just basically coach my kids sports all day. That's all I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on this episode. And for everybody listening, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Until next week, keep working on getting your off market deals, build that life of freedom through real estate investing so you can be like Grant, being at home with a portfolio and just spending time with your loved ones. Have a great week. Great stuff, man. This story
Sweet.
is awesome. I love it.
Oh, thanks, man.
Oh, it looks like none of your stuff is working on your side. Oh boy.
Not working at all.